हरि करना।
Welcome to the third part of module 4, which is using Ansible for configuring infrastructure as a service or just infrastructure. So here in this part of the fourth module, we are going to discuss about what is Ansible used for, and what is the architecture of Ansible, and and which what do you use, which script do we use, a script, do we use a JSON, do we use a YAML file, and if you use YAML file, why are we using YAML file? And then all these things we are going to discuss, and then we will talk about the inventories, we will talk about the playbooks, we'll talk about the play, we'll talk about the tasks. So we'll talk about maximum all fundamentals and theoretical concepts that are related to Ansible. Then we will move on to some practical exercises with Ansible. So let's begin with this part of the fourth module with the difference. Let's look into the difference between a shell script and configuration management. So why do we require a shell script? Why do we require a configuration management, a special configuration management? Why can't we use a shell script? Those are the things we're going to explore in this slide first. So if you look into the shell script, so many developers and system administrators manage servers by logging into them via SSH, that is secure shell, making changes. They'll do some changes in that server once they logged into it, then and they'll log off. So that's the normal procedure they do. They log into the system via SSH, then they do some changes and they deploy application and they do modification in the services, and then they log off the server. So some of these changes would be documented, some would not. That's obvious. So if an admin needed to make the same change to many servers, for example, changing one value in a config file, so the admin would manually log into each server and repeatedly make this change. It's pretty difficult, and you have to lose huge amount of time, and you have to spend huge amount of resources for this. So that's what we do it through using shell script. That's how you do that activity. If you want to do a small change in the config file to all the servers that you have, then manually every time with every server you log into via SSH and do the change in the config file, and then you log off. It takes huge amount of time, and you have to repeat the same task for each server. So how can you handle this? You're losing your resources. How can you handle this? So if there were only one or two changes in the course of a server's lifetime, and if the server were extremely simple, running only one process with the one configuration and a very simple firewall, and if every change were thoroughly documented, so this process would not be a problem. But but for almost every company in existence, servers are more complex. Most most run tens, sometimes hundreds of different applications or application containers. That is the biggest issue. It's not that like you have one server and you're going to run only one application in that. So after the Docker has come into the picture, after the containerization has evolved a lot, after that most of the companies are running too many applications in a single server. So because of this, So because of this, most servers have complicated firewalls and dozens of tweaked configuration files. And even with change documentation, the manual process usually results in some server or some steps being forgotten. So if the admins at these companies wanted to set up a new server exactly like the one that is currently running, they would need to spend a good deal of time going through all of the installed packages and packages documenting these configurations, versions, and settings. And they would spend a lot of unnecessary time manually installing or reinstalling, updating, and tweaking everything to get the new server to run close to how the old server did. So some admins may use shell scripts to try to reach some level of sanity or some level of automation, but I have yet to see a complex shell script that handles all edge cases correctly while synchronizing multiple servers configuration and deploying new code. This is the problem statement for us. This is the biggest issue when you're dealing with your servers. So then came a configuration management. Lucky for you, there are tools to help you avoid having these snowflake servers. So servers that are uniquely configured and impossible to recreate from scratch because they were hand configured without documentation. So tools like CF Engine 23, Puppet 24, and Chef 25 so became very popular in the mid to late 2000s. So but there is a reason why many developers and a system admins stick to shell scripting and command line configuration. So it's the simple and easy to use. So that's the reason they have been. And another important aspect is they have had years of experience using bash and the command line tools, because the system admins and then developers, they have been using this bash scripting and shell scripting and command line tools for years and years throughout their whole experience. So that's the reason there is a reason those people are all obviously stick to the this shell scripts. But so why throw all that out of the window and learn a new configuration language and methodology? That's what they think. So they just want to go with the status quo. So then enter Ansible. So Ansible was built and continues to be improved by developers and system admins who know the command line and want to make a tool that helps them manage their servers exactly the same as they have in the past, but in a repeatable and centrally managed way. So Ansible also has other tricks up its sleeve, so making it a true Swiss Army knife for people involved in DevOps, not just the operation side. So one of Ansible's greatest strength is the ability to run regular shell commands verbatim. So you can take existing scripts and commands and work on converting them into idempotent playbooks as time allows. For someone like me who was comfortable with the command line but never became proficient in more complicated tools like Puppet or Chef, which both required at least a slight understanding of Ruby and are a custom language just to get started. So Ansible was a breath of fresh air.